Thank you. Recording in progress. Thank you, Zoom voice. Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee regularly scheduled June 7th Township Committee meeting. I'll recognize that we have a full complement of Bedminster Township Committee here. We have 4 of us right here in Town Hall, and Committeewoman Fernandez is participating remotely via Zoom. Hi, Gina. Ms. Sullivan, may we please have, oh my God, Ms. Sullivan. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Old habits are.
I hear you. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township
And she knew what I was going to ask her. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Was sent to the Courier News, Somerville, Burtonsville News, Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 7th, 2021.
Thank you, Robin Ray.
Thank you.
Please join for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So welcome everyone back. Everyone and Gina. So the 4 of us are sitting up on the dais. No masks. We are vaccinated and in keeping with the CDC guidance and what we're hearing out of Trenton, what we are participating and how we are participating up here is fully sanctioned. Couple of comments that I want to run through. And just as I've been doing since the beginning of the COVID situation, running through our numbers as of today, June 7, 429 confirmed cases, and Bedminster remains with 5 fatalities. And also what I've been doing, I think for 2 or 3 meetings now, is running through the vaccination rates. Once again, these vaccination rates are coming off the state website. For Bedminster, for the population with at least 1 dose. So that's at least 1 dose. For all ages, that's 64%. So 64% of all Bedminster residents have received at least 1 dose. For ages 18 and over, that number is 74%. For 65 and over, that number is 97%. For full vaccination, for all ages, the number is 54%, 18 and over, the number is 65%, and for 65 and over, the number is 90%. Since the last meeting, we also had the Memorial Day Parade. So it's good to see everyone out, and I want to give a special thank you to Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department, Far Hills Bedminster First Aid Squad, and the Pottersville Fire Company for organizing the Memorial Day Parade. A fantastic event remembering the nation's war dead, and a time for us to gather and start off the summer, but most importantly, to recall what Memorial Day is about. And I think the Far Hills Bedminster Parade is truly a great example of small town America, and reminds us all the values that we love so much about this area. So once again, thank you guys for putting that all together. At the Memorial Day Parade, we had just received this news just a few days earlier, so I announced it here. I'll announce it here again. Leo Johnson died on, I think it was, let me just pull up the obituary real quick. I think it was on May 25th. On May 25th, Leo Johnson, Dr. Leo Johnson passed away. Leo served on the Township Committee for 2 terms in the 1990s and was mayor in 1996. The family asked that memorial contributions be made to, in lieu of flowers or anything else, be made to the Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department or the Far Hills Bedminster First Aid Squad or the Wounded Warrior Project. So condolences to the Johnson family, and for and also, just like the Memorial Day Parade, a thank you to the Johnsons for the time that Leo served Bedminster. Okay, we'll move on with the rest of the meeting. Now it's time for public comments. If any member wishes to make a comment, if any public wants to make a comment, the dais is open. If you are participating on tonight's phone call via phone, you can make your comment by raising your hand, and the way you do that on a Zoom call is by pressing *9. Robin will recognize you when the time is appropriate, and she'll take you off mute and put you back on to make your comment. If you are participating via a computer on Zoom, scroll down to the bottom of the page, move over to the icon for participants and click on raise hand. And once again, that'll put you in the queue to be recognized. So any member of the public here in person have a comment? No. Anyone on the Zoom call, either through *9 or
I am not
clicking?
seeing any there.
Okay, that's the one opportunity for public comment. Moving on with the meeting. Approval of minutes. We have 2 minutes, the May 17th, 2021 Township Committee meeting, 7 p.m. and the May 17th, 2021 executive session meeting minutes. Any comments that have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Ray? Ms. Ray. Robin.
We do that all night.
Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Permits and raffles. We have 3 permits to discuss tonight. First one is a fireworks permit for a fireworks display scheduled for Thursday, July 1st, 2021 at Hamilton Farm Golf Club, 1040 Pottersville Road, Bedminster, New Jersey. Well, let's take this first. Robin, do we have anyone here who wants to talk about? Oh, yes, right there.
Renee
Come on
is here
up.
from Hamilton Farm.
Renee.
Yeah.
This is Renee.
Good evening.
Renee. All right. Okay, your name and your title over at Hamilton?
Sorry?
Your name and, I'm sorry, your full name and your title at Hamilton.
So my name is Renee Morero, and my father is computer director for Top. And I've been coming to this, Township for the last 10 years. Submitted with the Sandpeg work for a firework display permit, and this time will be on July 1st, celebrating Holy Night.
Okay.
All the paperwork have been submitted for the fire department club, and also our request for 2 officers, opportunity from the.
So I did speak with the chief earlier today, and he was good with the application. And he was also good with the request that Renee mentioned about having 2 officers stationed, one at the entrance and I think one on Parcel Road to make sure that traffic, keeps moving and that folks want to stop off on Parcel Road to watch the fireworks aren't going to block traffic or the entrance or exit from the golf club. Do you know what time the fireworks are expected to start and how long they're going to last?
And the last like about 20 minutes, and start at 4.
What if it's 9:15 to about 9:35? Okay, Robin, any other feedback other than what I heard from the chief?
No, that's it. That's all I
Okay.
have.
Any questions or comments regarding the application for the permits? No? Okay,
You answered the question I had.
okay, all right. May we motion to approve the fireworks permit for Hamilton Farm Golf Club for fireworks?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you and happy
Thank you.
4th of July.
Thank you today. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the other 2 permits, one is a social fair permit to benefit Trinitas Health Foundation on September 28, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Bridge Road, Bedminster. And the next one is social fair permit to benefit the R&C Donovan Family Foundation on June 13, 2021, from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club, 811 Rattlesnake Bridge Road. Any questions or comments regarding those two social fair permits? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. Moving right along. The monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair. We will start with Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. On historic preservation, we had a meeting since our last meeting. The Bed One site came up. Truth be told, because all of, if you recall, a lot of the aspects of the project were baked into the ordinance itself. There was sort of a question between at historic preservation as to really what is it that they're looking at, what is it they're reviewing, and I sort of explained a lot of the stuff that had already been pre-agreed to or pre-approved and put into the ordinance in case the project were ever to be sold off, and we know exactly what that site's going to look like. So I think there was some question by historic preservation as to what jurisdiction it has vis-a-vis the planning. So if the planning board is accepting and incorporating a lot of the stuff into the approved plans, then, is there, duplication of efforts? There was some concern about signage and some of the final touches, but the developer hadn't really selected the final, selection. So I think there's going to be another round of resubmissions or submissions, and it's just unclear at this point of whether it's going to come back to historic preservation or the planning board, but they're ready, willing, and able to hear it. So overall, it went very well. Everybody's very, supportive of the project and behind it. The one comment was the roof line. Some folks thought it looked a little bit like a church and they wanted to see it redesigned a little bit, but, we'll work through that. But overall, I would say the project went over very well. Just subject to the last couple selections. That was good. It ended a little bit funky too, because we had turned over the reins to the presenter and then they logged off. So the site sort of, the meeting sort of ended abruptly and then it kind of got back together again, but that's all I can report on because that's all I remember. So, but good group of folks there, doing good work. On DPW, John was out today crushing it on River Road. There's a lot of stuff out there. Thank you for that.
River Road and Large Across, better than they were before?
Well, I don't know which section of the Large Cross, I was on the south side, so I didn't wait. Better.
Good.
So more work to do there, obviously. We heard, a lot of folks are upset about it, but it's Mother Nature, and all we can do is sort of address it in time. And thank you, John, for getting out there so quickly and doing that. And just to get all the residents that are listening to this, please just let us know what's going on. And we're not always out there on all the back roads. If there's areas that need concern, need touching up, let us know. We'll do it. We've got some personnel issues with DPW we're working through. Got a couple new hires. I think that just started today or
Starting
today. We've got some more interviews coming up this week. So things are happening.
on those interviews, I have to take a personal day on Wednesday.
Okay.
I just found out, so.
Okay. Sure.
Apologize for that.
And Doug, you're going to be sitting on those interviews?
Yep,
Good.
I'll sit in
Okay.
on those and, add what I can, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And, I think that, so long as the residents just keep us advised of what the needs are, we'll stay on top of that. But this, the paving, John, I don't know if you can give us an update on.
We finished all the Morris County paving that we planned for this year.
Yep.
That's all taken care of. I know we have an ordinance in place, and we'll discuss that later on. Right now, we're working a little bit on Boulder Road, which is down by Kirkville Road.
Sure.
That's
Hey, excuse me, Robin, are we picking up John's audio?
No, I don't believe we are actually.
Because I don't see, we don't have a microphone up there. So I'm wondering if we actually picked up Renee's comments as well.
Yeah, we can hear at home a little bit of what John's saying,
Okay, good.
but it would be better if he was by microphone, but you can hear him.
Now he's got a microphone.
I'm sorry, we're.
No, just give it.
Milner, you said Milner.
Back up on paving and where you are.
So Morris County co-op paving, completed earlier this spring. We have nothing else planned as of right now. We're going to introduce tonight is just the what we talked about for the paving plan for the capital ordinance. So money that go
project and so forth. I'll get to put it down on the current ordinance we have available to us.
Okay, and then the only other update I had would be on the community gardens, and it's just to say Renee and I are in a holding pattern. We're waiting for Paul. He's got some personnel issues he's working with on his end, but he owes us some layouts and some proposals, but we're still working on that. Excited about that project, and we just need that shoe to drop.
Great.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you. Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the only update I had for tonight was Board of Health, but I suspect you may want to wrap that into our larger conversation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, then I'll pass.
Okay, all right, thank you. Committeewoman Moraski.
Thank you, Mayor. So a quick, very short update for well testing. The only thing I know is that we had 12 tests. I'm assuming it went smoothly since we do this almost every year. Don't forget that the bee lady, Anna Forneski, will be at Farmers Market on June 12th, this Saturday.
Okay.
And the bat night is June 18th at 7 p.m. at River Road Park. Do you want me to touch on the styrofoam or save that?
Why don't you say that?
Okay. On the cannabis meetings, we've met with HVNMA and Hills Highland.
You know, on cannabis, you guys had the meetings?
Yep.
Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring the cannabis discussion right after we finish the administrator's report. And we're gonna sort of then just we're just gonna
Sure.
bring in the Board of Health discussion, the land use board comments, the rec comments that Gina presented last week,
Okay.
and your discussion with Hills Village North. We'll
Okay.
sort of bring it all together.
Okay, so then the only other thing I want to mention is with Jacobus Vandergeer House, the Field of Honor, you've seen the flags out already. So the celebration is July 10th from 11 to 2. And I know I mentioned that before, but we're so excited. The White House Wind Symphony will be performing, and there'll be the other colonial demonstrators. At the farmer's market starting then, I believe June 19th, Robin, there'll be a table at the farmer's market, and JBH will be selling tickets to win a $1,400 gift card to Natarog. They're only gonna have 100 tickets, so it's limited, so somebody's gonna get a really nice gift card. And the only other thing that they really talked about at the meeting was programs for the fall, which now we can do, so that's very exciting. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. Committeewoman Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a real quick rec update regarding camp. So camp registration so far, there's 76 children signed up for session A of Camp Bedminster, 80 for session B of Camp Bedminster, and 79 for session C of Camp Bedminster. So they have the option of signing up for all the weeks or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then 2 weeks, which are the different sessions. Our tennis afternoon camp, science, rainbow STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics camp. The art clay camp and the traveling teams are all filled and have waiting lists, the afternoon camps. So there's a total of 235 children signed up for Camp Bedminster. And all the counselor and CIT positions are filled. They have a new discovery teacher who's a college grad. They graduated with their teaching degree in science, so that's exciting. And they just wrapped up the outdoor basketball program, finished mid-May with a lot of positive feedback. So that's as much as I have for the rec update. We also have construction fees update, but that will be, we will have that next time instead.
Okay.
And that's all. Okay.
Thank you. So I'm going to cover a series of topics. I'm going to try to go through them quickly. At the last land use board, similar to the Board of Health and similar to Renee's discussions with Hills Village North Master, we had a discussion on cannabis, and we'll come back to that topic in just a little bit. This Thursday, we're going to have a preliminary presentation from the planning consultants that we've been working with regarding possible uses of the AT&T site and possible zoning options that the township may wish to consider. This is sort of the first discussion with the entire land use board on this topic. There have been a series of discussions that Colin and I have been involved with different stakeholders regarding the AT&T property, and also discussions that the master plan subcommittee of the land use board has had. But this will be the first sort of presentation to the full, land use board. After that, the planning consultants will take whatever feedback they have from the land use board, and they'll fine tune the presentation. And pretty soon, I'm going to say in a couple of weeks, we'll actually start the full public discussions and public hearing, both either at the land use board or here, regarding the presentations from the planning experts regarding the AT&T property. So we're very interested to see how that goes. And once again, for a reminder, the preference is AT&T stays in the entirety of that property and expands. But every week there seems to be a new headline regarding AT&T, what they're doing on a corporate level. And believe it or not, that has ramifications back here in Bedminster regarding the property. And we are not going to be caught surprised by any corporate decision made in Dallas that affects the jobs and property here in Bedminster. So we are being proactive and continue to do so regarding that. Also, with regard to the land use board, I want to give a special thank you to Scott Zupnik, who served on the land use board for several years. Was a great contributor, great ideas, always putting Bedminster's interest first. Scott has resigned from the land use board as he and his family are moving down the road to Pennsylvania. And Stephen First, who is a Bedminster resident, lives on Cedar Ridge, will be moving on to the land use board. Stephen has been involved in many different organizations and committees and commissions involving affordable housing, operation of the county. I think he's been on several county boards, and John and I have had dealings with him, and he is a terrific addition, a great Bedminster resident, and someone who takes an innovative approach to looking at problems. And I think he'll be a great addition to the land use board. So welcome Stephen First, and his first meeting will be with the AT&T presentation. So good time to join. There's no current applications scheduled or hearing scheduled for the land use board, but as we've discussed before, they're around the corner. They should be coming soon. While we're on the zoning issue, we did hire a new zoning officer, and actually the resolution for her hire is in the packet, but she's already started work, and the word from staff is that she's doing a great job, and certainly looking at some of the problem properties, Doug, that you and I have discussed for years.
Yes.
And John certainly drafted some ordinances regarding these properties. So she is on top of it, and action is being taken.
As they say, Mayor, better late than never.
Better late than never, absolutely. Open space, agricultural properties. We've had a number of meetings with Beth Davison regarding the prioritization of expenditures for agricultural farming and preservation and for potential open space acquisitions. Beth and I had a discussion this morning about moving those along, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll have Beth back before us to give us an update on where those stand, but things are moving, and that's a good sign. Let's see. Robin and I had a conversation with a group from PSE&G regarding extension of natural gas service. We have several neighborhoods where you would think they might have natural gas because there's a density and a proximity to a natural gas main, but those neighborhoods don't have it. Now, years ago, PSE&G would go out and actually affirmatively solicit neighborhoods and say, if you can get us 30% or 40% of the residents, we can bring natural gas, around the streets or right in front, and then, residents just need to tie in. They haven't done that. That's not their standard MO these days. But it's a conversation that actually Judy and I had started, I think maybe about 2 years ago, and got completely sidetracked with COVID, scheduling this discussion. But we did have it, and we specifically asked PSE&G to take a look at Doug Street, Ski Hill, right? There's actually a natural gas line that comes off of 206, several hundred feet actually, into Ski Hill. And, they said, if you could get us a sense of the gas usage, which they'll convert to BTUs, and then they can make an internal decision about whether they can do it gratis based upon the anticipated revenue coming in. But while we had them on the phone, we also talked about, where are the natural gas mains, and are there other neighborhoods that can be serviced? So there's actually a gas main. I did not know this, that runs up Pottersville Road. I did not know that, Al. I thought that was very interesting because, and right, I'm sure. So for folks who live off of Pottersville Road, whether it's Union Grove or maybe coming down a little bit of Larger Cross, there's an opportunity to bring natural gas there. I think a lot of our residents think that it's just going to be too expensive because there's no close by main to connect to, but that's not necessarily the case. So PSE&G did give us some of the forms, and Doug, you want to take over for your neighborhood?
I was going to ask, if I'm prepared to go door to door, and I talked to Rich Johnson, he's interested in it as well. So between the two of us, we can canvass the street and get information into the folks' hands. I just need to know what it is we're presenting.
Right.
What is it PSE&G wants to achieve, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think
absolutely.
I think those forms should be explanatory. And look, one of the reasons we look at this is, we know what a lot of these neighborhoods are, neighborhood is probably what those houses are going 50, 60 years old.
Yeah, 1964. But who's counting?
So that would make them my age.
55.
Thank you.
So they may be on old oil tanks. Those oil tanks may be in good shape. They may not be in good shape. So if we can provide folks the opportunity to switch to a cleaner fuel and get rid of the environmental hazards that may be presented by underground storage tanks, and they're interested, because I know we certainly do know, talking to a bunch of realtors, that it's what the realtors say is if you have natural gas, you get a little bump up on your property value. So for anyone listening, do take advantage, look at the forms. If you think your neighborhood doesn't have service or isn't near a main, once again, that's not necessarily the case. All right, so we've covered PSE&G.
Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
Would that also include Berkshire?
Yes.
Okay.
So the same line that runs north to Pottersville Road, up 206. So Deer Haven, Gina, your street is Deer Haven and Old Dutch.
Okay.
And Old Stonehouse would be included in that. And Berkshire
And Ski Hill.
and Ski Hill.
Okay.
And then it's interesting when it hits P-PAC, there's another line that comes down south from Chester, but they don't connect. So there's a gap in that sort of, north of Pottersville, and then I forget where in P-PAC, but there's a gap on 206. But I was surprised. I did not know that it went up Pottersville Road. So that was a nice surprise. So once again, Union Grove could also take advantage of that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Farmers Market. So we had opening day Farmers Market on Memorial Day weekend, and it was 46 degrees, 47 degrees, and raining, and not just like a little light rain, a rain. So we were out there, you know, shivering in the cold and the rain and the wind, but we had folks come by who were so pleased that regardless of the weather, they were out there on opening day, and we doubled the numbers for this last weekend. So we had way more than we anticipated for opening day, given the weather. And then this weekend, we just, you know, it was just nonstop busy. We had cars parked in the fields, and everyone walking through just happy. I would say probably about, you know, most people were not wearing masks by a you know, good margin, but everyone was happy, and it was really great to see everyone out there. So appreciative of the opportunity to come back and see friends and folks and familiar faces out there at the farmers market. So I just want to, you know, thank everyone who was involved with the farmers market, and to Neil Mastro Buono, who was just, you know, he's what a great addition, Robin. So good pick for handling both rec and the farmers market. So thank you very much. Robin. Oh, wait, no, there's one more thing. So the other topic that Doug and I had both engaged with the chief on was receipt of notice that the police department was authorized for a $40,760 grant funding for the body cameras.
All right.
So it was allocated based upon number of requests. So we had 20 cameras put in there, and I forget whatever the number per camera that was authorized, but 40,000 is a good number. It's certainly something that we can put to replacement of units or improving the data storage. So Chief has already plans for the money that's coming in, whether to offset the expenses we've already laid out or to supplement as additional expenses come through. So I did want to mention that in my last issue. And now, Ms. Ray, Administrator's Report.
Okay, briefly, tomorrow is the primary election day. Polls are open from 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. Typically, we have 4 different locations that residents can vote in. However, we're doing 3 this year. Residents in District 4, 5, and 6 will not be able to vote at the Lamington Presbyterian Church. They'll come here. So we'll have 4 districts in here tomorrow. We did advertise those poll location changes. This flyer was sent out through Facebook, through Bedminster School, our community pass, as well as the library and all the master associations 3 different times. So hopefully we got everybody. Senior van service, the new senior van shopping day on Wednesdays is gaining popularity. Last month, we saw an uptick in our ridership, and we are now averaging 5 riders on Wednesdays. So
Oh, that's great. That's good.
really nice. Greater Raritan Workforce, I told you about this, I think the meeting before last, that the Department of Labor through the counties have developed a new summer youth employment program initiative. I went ahead and applied for the internship, and we were awarded this on Friday. So we have a new intern that will be starting in the beginning of July. We'll be here for 8 weeks, and we'll be reimbursed $2,400 from the county for that.
Great. That's great.
And the primary function will be to work on the BHHC records, because we're going to bring them all back from Iron Mountain, all 82 boxes. It'll be fun. Quick IT update.
For someone.
Yeah.
Happy summer.
Quick IT update, Rave Communications, no new information to report on that, but I will hopefully have more information to report out at the next meeting. And I did get a call from Heather Mahaley last week. This was really good news that one of the renters, one of the fire victims who is currently in a house in a hotel is now eligible for the Township's Renters Assistance Program. So that's before we didn't have anybody who had qualified or who needed it. He needs it, so this is perfect.
Right. So one of the things that has happened is that the initial funding through insurance coverage for displacement housing, some of those coverages were expiring, and some of the units are not ready to be inhabited.
And that's the
So,
case here.
yeah, so this is, we said that the affordable housing CGP&H would be, once again, we'd be proactive, we'd be on top of this. And we never lost sight that the impact of the fire is not just the day of the fire, the week of the fire, the week after the fire, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks after the fire, right? These are impacts that we're going to be dealing with for months. And this is an example, right, that people had insurance coverage, but everyone has a little bit different insurance coverage. And as that coverage expires and they still have no place to move back to, it's a bad situation. So I'm glad that CGP&H was able to help out. So good news.
And it's been a very busy month for human resources, to say the least. As you know, we have a zoning officer that has accepted our position. It's on the resolution for this evening. We have 2 DPW truck drivers, laborers that accepted position. One started today, and the other gentleman will start next Monday. And we are interviewing this week for general foreman, although that may change, we'll see. And then we do have ads out for a part-time sewer utility operator on the League of Municipalities, as well as a full-time administrative assistant to backfill Sarah's position. And we have quite a bit of resumes for that.
Good,
So
good.
the cutoff for that is this Friday.
Great.
That's all I have.
Okay, great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move the item that we had under, I think we had it under old business. Or new business. Well, actually, we don't have it under old business, but we've been talking about it for long enough that it sounds like old business. So discussion on introduced ordinances scheduled for public hearing. We don't have any public hearings tonight. We do have the introduction of 1, 2, 3, 4 ordinances. I'm going to take them out of order. And before we get to the introduction of ordinances, we're going to have the discussion on cannabis, and just again to regroup after a lot of us have had discussions with our subcommittees. So, Gina, I know at the last meeting you gave the presentation from the Recreation Commission.
Yes, would you like me to just kind of briefly repeat that?
Yes. If you mind.
Sure. So the rec committee, their input was that the I guess consequences for fines and things like that for smoking or edible marijuana in public should be that related to that of alcohol. So they feel like because of the intoxication factor that it should be treated like alcohol, not just like smoking cigarettes. And that the recreation committee kind of voted that they were in favor of a growing facility in Bedminster. They would be in favor of that, and in favor of a high-end storefront if that was to happen in Bedminster, that they would be okay with that. And they were concerned about green acres being because it's kind of state mandated, that the rules might be different, and they wanted to look into that a little bit further, or wanted us to look into that a little bit further to see what the regulations would be as far as green acres property and the use of marijuana on that property. Like, would that even fall under the town's jurisdiction? And if not, what would their, input be regarding that? So that was basically, in a nutshell, what the rec committee felt regarding the marijuana legislation, what they felt they wanted to see in Bedminster.
Okay, thank you, Gina.
No problem.
Okay, so Colin, you want to give us the overview from the Board of Health? I know it's something that Board of Health was considering last year.
Yeah.
And certainly was reconsidered based upon the legislation finally being adopted down in Trenton. So you guys have some updates, and we actually have Al Fisher, the chair of the Bedminster Board of Health, who's in attendance this evening. Hi, Al. So Colin, you want to talk about the Board of Health?
Thank you, Mayor. During the May meeting, Board of Health reviewed and adopted a resolution regarding recreational marijuana. One of the major concerns expressed by the board was the social cost of widespread recreational marijuana use. They used it as a comparable with Rocky Mountain high-intensity drug trafficking area report from November 2017. And you might ask, why is that? Well, Somerset County is about half the size of Denver from a population standpoint. So it's a pretty good proxy. It's not like we're comparing ourselves to New York City. What they saw in that report was the following: increased ER visits, hospitalizations, treatment for addiction, loss of productivity in the workplace, lower educational achievement, increased unemployment rates, increased accidents and injuries, and finally, higher crime rates. So our Board of Health has been studying the ramifications of the pending and now passed legislation for well over a year, as you mentioned, Mayor. And they've been very, very proactive in their analysis. I want to say kudos to Chairman Fisher, Vice Chair Dr. Agathis, and the entire board who's been on top of this since day one. As a result, the Board of Health recommends the following, and it's incorporated within the ordinance you have, within the resolution you have in front of you tonight. First, the Township enacted an opt-out ordinance prohibiting all categories of cannabis businesses pursuant to Section 31B of the recently enacted state legislation. Secondly, that the Township add to the list of prohibited uses all classes of cannabis establishments, cannabis distributors, or cannabis delivery services, except the delivery of cannabis items and related supplies by delivery service. Remember, we cannot prohibit deliveries from a licensed delivery service operating in a different town. We can only prohibit or not provide a licensed delivery service within our town.
Right.
And thirdly, Board of Health recommends and put in a resolution that the Township enact such ordinances to prohibit the smoking, vaping, or aerosolizing of medical or recreational marijuana at any public park, school, recreation center, or other places where smoking is or may be prohibited by the Township. Incidentally, I want to note that nothing contemplated herein is meant to get in between a doctor and their patient as it relates to medical marijuana, which the Board of Health has made very clear. Since we are in the presence of Chairman Fisher, Chairman, hopefully I've covered it sufficiently, but please, if you would add on any comments, thoughts, we're glad to have you here.
Members, Chairman, Robin, John, thank you. As Colin mentioned, we've been working on this for over a year. Attended some sessions in Somerset County by James Marjalis early on. It's basically facts haven't changed. Consider that every possible resolution. That contains everything that the board has discussed. Good job. At this point, I'd like to specifically thank Alice. Chairman, for all her work. There is, and questions which everything we believe is resolution.
No, I just want to echo Colin's comments that, Al, thank you and the Board of Health for all the work you put into it. You guys have certainly been following and tracking this for a while. I know Dr. Agathis has some very strong opinions as a pediatrician in town, probably better than anyone else. She has a feel of impacts of substance abuse on young kids, unfortunately. And that unfortunately is not just, around, but also here, right? She is a local pediatrician with her offices in Bedminster. And, when she speaks of incidents, we know that she's speaking from personal and professional experience. So we know Dr. Agathis, when she puts her comments and she discusses those at the Board of Health. She does so with expertise and with deep feelings for kids and for the health of Bedminster residents. So that's the Board of Health. Any questions or comments for Al?
So just trying to decipher and work through the recommendations of the rec committee, the recommendations of the Board of Health. And it seems to me that they're not inconsistent in the sense that recreation is saying we could support the business of whatever sort that we heard from Gina. But the Board of Health seems to be focused more on the use of the product as opposed to the sale or the distribution of the business of it. My sort of the way I'm sort of seeing our boards are saying, let's take a wait and see approach, but perhaps there's a place in the community, in the town for a grow site or a point of sale site. But the Board of Health, do I understand it to be saying, regardless of something, whether something sold here in town or grown here in town, we're saying no consumption in a public place? That's sort of how I get it.
Yeah, I would say that's a unifying thread between rec and Board of Health. And I'm going to, give the, Colin can join me as well, since we had this discussion with the land use board, and we went back and forth at the land use board level with, just as Board of Health was guided by their attorney, Tim Beck, land use board was guided by discussions with Tom Collins, the planning board attorney. And our discussion at the land use board went like this. We got to August 21st to enact an ordinance if we're going to opt out. If we don't by August 21st, then we'll not even presumed, we will be opt-in, and we will not be able to opt out for another 5 years. And if you allow that to happen, or affirmatively allow it to happen by enacting an ordinance that allows those businesses, well, until the state cannabis commission promulgates rules and regulations, you don't really know what those businesses, how they're going to be set up, what they're going to look like, how they're going to operate. And the consensus from the land use board, and this was unanimous, was until such time as the rules and regulations are issued, there's no way that Bedminster should allow those businesses to be located here, and that when the rules and regulations are finally out there, to reevaluate, right? And just as you mentioned, grow facilities or the micro licenses for grow facilities or other businesses. Well, maybe at that point, that's something you can say, okay, someone's got 100 acres, should they be allowed to have a micro license to put up a micro cultivation facility? You might look at that differently than you would a dispensary or a warehousing or processing operation. So this was a recommendation from the land use board, and I'll just read real quickly. Memorandum to Robin Ray, Deputy Clerk. Oh, it says, Janine wrote that. So Robin.
It's very confusing.
Clerk, Township Administrator Robin Ray, from Carol Gutschall and the Bedminster Township Land Use Board Chair, regarding opting out of all cannabis approved industries. At the June 3rd, 2021 Land Use Board meeting, the Bedminster Township Land Use Board discussed and voted on the following recommendation. The Bedminster Township Land Use Board recommends that the Bedminster Township Committee should opt out of all cannabis approved industries at this time until the regulations are in place. So that was well, there it is, summed up from the Land Use Board. Nothing further to say on that. Certainly something that we've discussed at the Township Committee, and also certainly when Fuad and Melissa did the presentation, that was sort of the sense, well, geez, until the rules and regulations are known,
right,
you don't really know what you're allowing.
Right. I think it all falls into the no-brainer category until they figure out how the sausage is going to get made. We're out. I get it. But what the Board of Health is doing, just to be clear for the record, for people who are listening, right? Because they may hear that there's inconsistency. The Board of Health doesn't seem to be opining on the licenses and the uses. They seem to be opining more on the consumption aspect of it. Am I right about that? Or are they saying?
Well, they do say,
You do recommend the opting
yeah,
out
they do recommend opting out.
of all categories. And then as well as adding to the list of prohibited uses, all classes of establishments, distributors,
And
delivery services, everything.
okay, so let me just drill down on that. Is the feeling of the Board of Health that the opt-out is the right call because we don't have the regulations? Or are they saying opt out because we think cannabis is the antichrist and we don't want to deal with it?
I'm gonna let Chairman Fisher take that question.
I'll try and answer. I think it's basically opt out. Facilities selling it as the article says. Exactly what's in there. They've never considered. Rather. Yeah, discuss that.
But again, is the decision and the recommendation of the opt-out as we sit here today, based on your group, is it because we don't know what we're opting into because Trenton hasn't developed it? Or is it just a pushback on the notion of cannabis?
It's pushback on the notion of cannabis.
But the issue there is that with the referendum that the state voted on, cannabis, and I'm going to ask John, is or will be, well, it will be able to be purchased legally. It has been completely decriminalized. So the state has not only decriminalized it, but is allowing it to be sold. And it is also preventing municipalities from prohibiting its consumption. You can order cannabis. You can get the cannabis delivered to you. You can consume in your private location. What is left to the discretion of the municipalities is whether or not we will allow the businesses to be located and operated, right? So that's a zoning issue. And certainly we've heard from the land use board on that component. But the other component is the policing powers of the municipality, right? We don't have authority. The state trumps us on consumption in private residences and in private properties. The municipality does have the authority on our own public spaces. So there's two ordinances that John has prepared. So one is a zoning ordinance and one is a police powers ordinance. But we're not done with the full discussion yet. Renee, you and Colin, you guys had your meetings with Hills Village North. There's certainly one of the concepts that we discussed with, once again, with Fuad and Melissa was, a good chunk of Bedminster lives in planned unit developments, right? In the single families in the hills or the multifamily units in the hills. And invariably, issues that reside or should reside with the condo associations often get pushed back to us, right? So I wanted to make sure that, hey, we've had the benefit of this discussion. Guys, you should also listen to this discussion. And while we're not giving advice to the condos, we're certainly not giving legal advice to the condos. They got their own attorneys for that. We will say, you guys got to tee this up. You got to tee it up for yourselves.
Well, we met with Hills Highland, and to that point, their lawyer actually was on the call with us, which is fabulous, because he's already had experience doing this kind of thing. So we had a regular bunch of questions, and he's like, yep, this is what we did here, this is what we did here. So that gave them the starting point. Now they're gonna move ahead, and their lawyer is totally on board and knows where to go.
So what are they thinking? What's the thoughts from
I
Hills
think they
Village
agree
North?
with us that to be very conservative, they'd rather have nothing. And then once the regulations come into play and we find out what we're opting into, as we keep saying, then that we'll see where we go. But they like the idea of opting out.
Okay. So that's the feedback from the boards and commissions. And, I know at one point we talked about the school board. And then, I'm not sure if this was Doug or Colin had some feedback from what the school board was thinking.
I didn't have any direct feedback.
No.
No,
I thought there was some feedback, but with that, John has prepared 2 ordinances. And John, if you could just walk us through what you prepared, and if the consensus from the Township Committee is to proceed, then we can certainly move tonight to introduce one or both of those ordinances. Or if we want to give John further direction, we can table these ordinances. John can come back with revised ordinances for our next meeting, and we still have plenty of time to get everything accomplished within the August 21st deadline. So, John, why don't you walk us through the 2 different ordinances?
Gladly, Mayor, and I think you adequately indicated that you have until August 21 in which to opt out from a zoning standpoint, or you're subject to a 5-year moratorium period. So in keeping with the direction of this governing body, we have prepared ordinance number 2021-011, which is the zoning ordinance. And being a zoning ordinance, it will of course be referred to the planning board for their review, recommendation, and determination of whether there are any inconsistencies with the master plan. So we have a section in your zoning ordinance 13-105 that prohibits certain uses within Bedminster Township, and we would add another category of prohibited uses under small g, which would be to prohibit any and all classes of cannabis establishments, cannabis distributors, or cannabis delivery services for recreational purposes, including, and again, we are looking at the 6 particular statutory definitions that the legislature has enacted. So there would be prohibition of cannabis cultivators, which essentially are the folks that grow, cultivate, or produce cannabis. Cannabis manufacturers, which are the business entities that otherwise take the cultivated product and manufacture, prepare, and turn it into packaged cannabis items. Cannabis wholesalers, which is somewhat self-explanatory, which are people on a wholesale level that package cannabis for resale or other transfer, and typically that is to cannabis distributors. Cannabis distributors are people that transport cannabis from one licensed cannabis cultivator to another licensed cannabis cultivator. Cannabis retailers, which are the essentially the stores that would sell your recreational cannabis. And finally, cannabis delivery services, which would be an entity located within the township that would deliver cannabis to consumers. And in accordance with the state directives, and as the mayor indicated, although all of these uses are prohibited or would be prohibited in all zones in Bedminster, the prohibition does not apply to the delivery of cannabis items and other related supplies by an outside delivery service. So as the mayor correctly indicated, the purchase of cannabis will become legal in the state of New Jersey. So for example, someone in Bedminster that decided they wanted to purchase cannabis would be able to obtain cannabis from a delivery service in another municipality that has allowed such uses. Regarding HOAs, that would be part of the next policing ordinance. So I will defer unless anyone has questions on the zoning ordinance.
I think the zoning ordinance is,
Right.
spot on. I think it's what we need to do without the regs from the state. So thank you, John, for doing that.
The police power ordinance, which is an amendment of your section 320, would be entitled Prohibition on the Public Consumption of Cannabis. And that would indicate that no person shall engage in the smoking, vaping, aerial sizing, or consumption of cannabis by any means in a public place. And a public place would be defined as any place to which the public has access that is not privately owned. Again, emphasis on not privately owned, or any place to which the public has access, including but not limited to a public street, a roadway, a thoroughfare, a sidewalk, a bridge, an alley, a plaza, a park, a playground, a swimming pool, a shopping area, public transportation facility, a vehicle used for public transportation, a parking lot, public library, or any other public building structure or area. And there is a finding within the ordinance that the Township of Bedminster finds that in public places, the right of non-smokers to breathe clean air outweighs the right of smokers to smoke, and also finds that the consumption of cannabis in public places is inimical to the health, safety, and welfare of the township and its residents. There is a penalty for violating this of up to $200. And again, that is keeping with the spirit of the state legislation, which is decriminalization. So there is no community service or imprisonment for the smoking of cannabis in public places. And again, that keeps with the spirit of the state statute. As far as common areas in the hills or other homeowner association areas, those are private areas. And as we have previously indicated, and members of my firm have indicated at prior meetings, the ability to police cannabis use in those particular private areas and homeowners associations, whether that be parking lots or common spaces, is for the HOAs to decide by enactment of rules and regulations, and not something which this governing body has jurisdiction over.
John, the police power ordinance covers medical as well?
No, medical is expressly excluded from both of these ordinances. If you wanted to ban the establishment of a medical dispensary or other service, that would require a separate ordinance, because those are not covered by the 5-year opt-out.
No, I'm sorry, the
police power.
The police power one, yeah. Does the second one
Oh, yes. Even if you have
consumption?
a medical permit
Not
to
public.
consume in your house or other private area, you are not permitted, say, for example, to at River Road Park, say, I have a medical permit from a doctor, I'm going to smoke in public.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So there's essentially, I guess, 3 elements of the police power one, which is 1, no consumption in any park or recreation area of the township. That's the first section. Then is the public place, which could be the King Shopping Center, right? That could be
Yes.
the parking lot,
The
right? So
public has access to that, so it's prohibited.
okay, and so it's not just smoking, right? But also where it says
Consumption.
consumption. So it's both smoking in those public spaces and any consumption in the public spaces.
Whether it be edibles, pills, tinctures, or beer.
And you're,
Well, I shouldn't say beer, because cannabis,
you have cannabis beer.
it doesn't have beer in it, it just has THC in it. So it looks like a beer bottle, but
it's not.
it's not beer.
And-
That is also prohibited under the ordinance.
And the term that you use here finds that the consumption of cannabis in public places is inimical to the health, safety, and welfare of the township and its residents, which would also seem consistent with the comments from the Board of Health. And then the violations and penalties, $200,
Up to $200 and
up to $200.
up to 200. That would be within the discretion of the municipal court judge.
Okay, but not what, I'm just curious, what was the basis for the $200?
It seems to be a standard that most municipalities in the state have adopted.
Okay.
Similar language in finding that there is a recognition that the legislature has decided to decriminalize the stigma of cannabis consumption and not subject persons engaging in that use to heavy quasi or other criminal penalties, community service, or imprisonment.
Just want to add, I did speak with Chief about this ordinance. It was corrected and he said he's fine with it as prepared.
And so did I. But I actually spoke to him before. So
Before it was corrected.
Before it was corrected, right. So you got him afterwards. So
Thanks for putting
that's
this
good to hear
together.
from the chief. And thank you for the
You're
presentation.
welcome.
John.
I know this has been a long task with much input from your various boards and committees, and you've done a studious and diligent undertaking of this. So it has not in any sense of the word been a rush to cannabis prohibition.
No, I mean, I think, look, with anything else that's really, materially different than the way things used to be, which is what this is, we're embarking as a society down this road. I think we owe it to ourselves and to the residents to sort of proceed with caution.
Right.
Let's let it play out first. Let's see what we're dealing with before we dive in, if we dive in at all. So I think they're both reasoned and well thought out.
And as many of you have previously indicated, until the regulations, which are not expected until almost the date of our opt-out on August 21, you don't know the end product. This is not carved in concrete. You have the ability in the future, after the regulations are issued, should you decide that one of these particular prohibited categories presents an opportunity or is not inimical to the public health, safety, and welfare, to go back and revisit that.
And that was something certainly that the land use board recognized. And,
It's a wheat sheet.
on our Bedminster logo right there. But we are a lot of agricultural properties in town. And, could some of those properties be supported by having a cultivation license, either big, regular one, but the state is going to parse those out. There's one here, one there. Some of the main ones are going to be in urban areas, and they're going to probably go into warehouses and factories like that. And with doing 24/7 grow lights, it's going to be it's not going to be an agricultural operation. But at the same time, could someone do a micro license? And I know I keep coming back to that. But I really like the presentation that Fuad and Melissa did about the distinction between the micro licenses and how they can work on, a property where you're going to establish a greenhouse. And perhaps that is something that long-term it will actually support some of the agricultural properties in Bedminster. But we can't do that now, because if you say it, what is it going to mean?
Nothing. Means
Right.
nothing until you know what you're dealing with.
Until
it means
you don't know
nothing.
what it is. Does it have to be, what sort of security, what type of lighting does it do? Would we approve something that is antithetical to our own zoning?
That's right.
So that was the position we discussed at the land use board, that how could you opt in when you don't know what you're getting on the back end of that deal?
You have to implicitly trust Trenton.
Oh, sure, everyone does.
It's the new age of the Garden State, so we'll see how it works out.
Do deer eat this stuff?
That sounds like the name of a dispensary, by the way. New Age in the Garden State.
And again, you're not abridging the right of any of your citizens to receive a delivery.
Do deer eat marijuana plants?
I'll ask them.
If we see them stumbling around, then the answer is in the affirmative.
When we see them at the White Castle, we'll,
At 2 a.m.
we'll
in the
have a
morning.
discussion with them.
Line up
Right.
at the drive-thru.
We have to protect our deer. Sorry.
So with that discussion, so John prepared these two ordinances. We can introduce them both. we can introduce neither. We can introduce one, we can give direction back to John to, change something around.
I'd like to introduce them both.
I agree. I mean, look, as John mentioned, we follow a very thoughtful, deliberate process. We may not be the first out of the gate, but as I say in tech circles, you never want to buy version 1.0. So I think we spent our time and we've got our input from our various boards and committees. There's no reason to delay it any further. I think we're acting in the best interest of Mr. Rest, based on what we know right now.
What Colin said.
What Colin said. Gina?
Yeah, I agree. Why not? We've done our research, we've done our due diligence. I think it's time to introduce them.
Yeah, and I'll say that, we've talked about this for months now. And really the only member of the public that expressed any opinion was Mr. Garcia, and he made his position quite clear. And I think it's absolutely consistent with the discussion that we've had tonight. So may we have a motion to introduce ordinance 2021-011. This ordinance amends the township's regulations regarding prohibited uses for zoning to include cannabis establishments, cannabis distributors, and cannabis delivery services in the township.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
So with the introduction of that ordinance, this is a zoning ordinance and will require it requires response from the planning board for consistency determination, essentially for finding that the ordinance is not inconsistent with the Bedminster master plan. If this ordinance, I think the timing should work out that if we can get a copy of this over to Janine, she can distribute it to the land use board members and in time for this Thursday's June 10th land use board meeting. If they make such a determination that it is not inconsistent with the master plan, then the public hearing for this ordinance will be June 21st. Yes? No?
I
No, it
think you have
needs-
July
it needs-
6th.
Yeah, it needs.
Oh,
to be
July 6th?
6th.
Okay,
The other one would be the 21st.
okay. So this will be July 6th. Okay. Speaking of the other one, we have a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-012. The ordinance creates the township's regulations prohibiting the public consumption of cannabis in the township.
Mayor, I would just indicate that rather than use the word approve, you should use the word introduce.
I'm sorry. Thank you. And we have a motion to introduce ordinance 2021-012.
So moved.
Second. Third.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
This ordinance will be heard June 21st.
Correct.
So the police power ordinance will be heard June 21st. The zoning ordinance, July 6th. Okay, we have two other ordinances to go through. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for your participation. And thank you for the members of the public who've expressed their opinions. And anyone who really wants to push their opinions further, June 21st and July 6th. Ordinance 2021-009. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $100,000 for the capital road management plan in Bedminster Township. John, you just want to give us well, you can pick up or speak loud enough without a microphone.
You can come.
So based on our budget discussions, this for $100,000 was approved by the tax committee with ordinances for paving menu. There's no plan for this money at this point in time. This is just a placeholder for future projects. Whether it's something that we're going to stand for, or it's going to be supplemental.
Can these funds be used for engineering on roads, or do they have to be used for like hard costs?
They can be used for drainage, they can be used for any kind of thing.
Because I know that sort of one of the next areas in the queue is going to require some engineering. So I wanted to,
Generally, we try to do those types of projects, try to put an ordinance in place specifically so that the engineer doesn't overspend those funds.
Okay.
That project that you're speaking of has to be, I'm assuming.
yes, no, behind here. Well, behind D Heights.
The plan was, at least my thought was, what the road behind D Heights was not going to be approved by the DOT. You have a better chance of getting roads approved in behind the library for the swamp area.
In terms of a mutual project, you mean? In terms of aid? Yeah, no, I was right with that idea in mind, but the neighborhood up, Tuttle and all up in there, I thought that that's going to require some engineering to figure out how we're going to get rid of some of the water. And that may be a year and a half out, but we're going to have some upfront, digging into that job to see how we're going to do it.
If you're going to set it to DOT money, you're not.
No, I was thinking, I was under the same impression that we didn't think that we were going to be eligible to submit for that and get DOT funding. So I'm sort of looking at that as a project we're probably going to have to own, but to get there, we need engineering to figure out how we're going to get rid of a lot of the water.
Maybe we should have a discussion with Paul.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, any other questions or comments regarding that ordinance? If not, may we have a motion to introduce ordinance 2021-009?
So moved.
Second.
Full vote, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski?
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye, and the public hearing for that ordinance will be June 21st at 7 p.m. And the next ordinance is ordinance number 2021-010. This ordinance authorizes appropriating $25,000 for street lighting upgrades in Bedminster Township. John?
So again, at the budget discussion we had, we are putting aside $25,000 for replacement program. For the most part, our stock of streetlights on has expired, and we're trying to put together some newer LED lights. So we bought the LED lights; they're up one from drivers one time. So we're out of those lights again. So they're replaced.
Have you been pleased with the fixtures that we're getting?
They're pretty much identical. The heads are pretty large, but.
Okay.
That's
Always a good thing.
Other than, it's different color than. what's around there, so.
Well, over the next, 30 years, they'll all blend the same.
It's the way the future
Those
is.
are up the same way.
Yeah, it is the way of
They
it.
don't
Right.
light up the street anymore.
Look, LED, it's a more efficient light, right? It's less cost effective, it's less costly, I should say, more efficient. So, and the old fixtures aren't ready for them. So
Colin, can they still tweak the LED light to mimic?
You can, if they're tunable, I don't know. the ones that-
No, these may not be, right? Okay. Okay. May we have motion to introduce ordinance number 2021-012?
second.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I gave the wrong number.
0.
010. 010.
Second.
Full Roll call vote again, please. Mr. Stevenson?
Aye.
Mr. Hickey?
Aye.
Ms. Moreski? Aye. Ms. Fernandez?
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs?
Aye.
Thank you.
Public hearing of ordinances, we have none consent agenda. We have nothing on the consent agenda. We do have,
Mayor, did you
wait.
want to announce that that's going to be on?
oh, that's also on June 21st, 7 PM.
Sorry.
Sorry, thank you. You're welcome. I just got too many papers in front of me today. Resolutions, we have a number of resolutions to go through. Resolution 2021-074 authorizes the mayor and acting purchasing agent to sign an agreement with North Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System for a 3-year period. Ms. Ray?
Sure. This was just brought to my attention. I'm not very familiar with this, but apparently it allows us to purchase equipment through this wastewater cooperative pricing system for the sanitary sewer system.
So this co-op is similar to co-ops that we've otherwise participated in? Okay. Because we're not authorizing anything other than joining the co-op. We have a motion to approve Resolution 2021-074 unless there are questions or comments.
Move to adopt resolution 2021-074.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski, Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-075 authorizes the award of a contract to purchase mobile video recorders, body cameras, and data storage equipment for the Township of Bedminster Police Department through the State of New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Program pursuant to local public contracts law. I think that we've already
You have it.
we've proceeded with this.
Correct, and this is just the actual purchase
Right.
from the vendor.
So this is the amount of the equipment in total cost $107,000, just about $108,000, just shy of that. I think this is the same presentation we've heard from the chief before, the same numbers that are already built into the budget that we previously approved. Any questions or comments regarding this resolution?
So is this the number that we're working off of for the funding that we just heard about earlier? in the meeting?
Yes.
So
So
there's still a bit of a
100,
delta in there for us.
108 is still, yeah.
Yeah.
So 108 is this cost to purchase all the equipment, including the all the cameras, offset, if we choose, by the grant that was awarded, or the grant can be deployed for future expenses.
So net, if we take the money in and all that,
Mhm.
Trenton basically cost us on this initiative $70,000.
Yeah.
Be nice to get to 70.
Yes.
And then people wonder why you don't opt into cannabis legislation that they haven't developed, because they do stuff like this. I'm sorry,
Yes.
this is crazy. I mean, this is a significant hit on the budget that we have to absorb, we have to pass through, and yet they don't give us the mechanism to pay for it. It is what it is. It's just, it's sort of befuddling.
I'm trying to pull up the number from, that came in earlier from the chief. Let's pull that up real quick.
It's roughly $2,000 a camera,
Right.
$2,030 a camera.
But we got, we're spending 108 and they're giving us 40.
So when the legislature moved forward with this, they allocated $58 million for grant assistance for municipalities who had to go out and purchase the body cameras. So you had, just reading from this, 487 agencies applied for that $58 million. $58 million doesn't go so far when you're spreading it across the entire state. We've got 487 municipalities, and that doesn't include municipalities that had already purchased their body cameras, and we're actually deploying them in advance.
Or your
of
larger
legislation.
municipalities that are buying at 10 times the rate we're buying. It's crazy.
No, we are buying through the co-op, so essentially, it does even out the per unit basis.
Right, but I'm just saying, if you're an Edison of the world, or a Newark or a larger municipality, you're
And then they're
spending a
getting,
lot
and they're
more.
getting funding and state aid from other avenues as well.
correct me if I'm wrong, they haven't defined the retention requirements yet, have they? In terms of how long to keep the trackers for? And well, that's not a capital expense, it does translate to capital because.
Legacy
they're on
cost,
servers.
of course.
Oh, it will. It will, and this is not supposed to be cloud storage.
Right.
So this will be servers, and this is one of the reasons Chief and I were discussing earlier, whether the $40,000 is gonna, should we deploy that to offset these dollars or put it towards,
data storage.
yeah.
Right, and you have to maintain it for 10 years, well, that's a lot of data.
Yep.
Sure
So
is.
right now before us is resolution.
Just
We're already committed to the money. So we've already committed to the money, and they've, the purchase is actually, I believe the chief has already proceeded with the purchase of those units. When they come in, well, guess what? Everyone else is doing the same thing. So you talk about back order. You're not quite sure when we're going to get these, but they have been ordered. So resolution 2021-075, to motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-076. This authorizes the provision of a loan pursuant to the Township of Bedminster Affordability Assistance Program for the purchaser of an affordable housing unit in Village Green. So this is our affordability assistance. So the money is set up. Now this is a down payment assistance. This is a loan that when that unit does get sold, that the dues assistance comes actually, I'm sorry, the affordability assistance will get paid back to the township at no interest.
Mayor, can the homeowner pay it off before that?
Sure. I don't know why they would want to, but they could.
Mayor, I move to adopt.
So we have a motion to approve by Committeeman Stevenson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next resolution authorizes the provision of a loan pursuant to the Township of Bedminster Affordability Assistance Program for the purchaser of an affordable housing unit in Cortland. Similar issue.
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Stevenson,
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Robin, I have not been involved in these, but I have been involved in other municipalities. Just check with CCG and P&H or whatever. Make sure there's a repayment mortgage that's recorded with the county clerk. That is typical of these transactions, so that it is of record in case the unit owner sells, that a prospective purchaser is aware of the obligation.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 2021-078. This resolution appoints a new part-time zoning officer, and that's Susanna Harris. Robin, do you want to please walk us through this?
Sure, we conducted interviews, we put a job ad out there, we conducted interviews with our HR consultant, and Susanna was determined to be the best candidate for the position. And she's a part-time employee here at Bedminster Township for 10 hours a week.
And she is a full-time zoning officer in a nearby town. And she comes recommended. I was involved in the interview, as was Paul Ferrero. And I know Paul's been working with her. And he, I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the meeting, speaks very highly of her.
And I have worked with her when she was the planning board secretary at the beginning of her career in Raritan Township in Hunterdon County, and I found her to be very efficient and diligent in that position.
Okay, so we have before us resolution 2021-078. May we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey,
Excuse me, aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez,
Aye.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Moving right along, resolution 2021-079. This resolution appoints 2 truck drivers, laborers to the Department of Public Works. John, you want to speak to these 2 hires?
Sure, we advertised for 2 candidates for each position that were open. And the applications, out of 8 applications, these candidates presented themselves very well.
I will say that I did speak to Robin, and they both have experience. You know, and not just experience, but experience close by. So they have a working knowledge of Bedminster, and this really does seem like, I mean, hate to say it, but it seems like an upgrade from what we may have had. So are you pleased with them so far?
Didn't work with me.
All right, okay, you haven't worked with me, okay.
How can you not?
But you're pleased with these hires, right? These are your recommendations. Okay. So with that, any further questions or comments for John or Robin? May we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-079.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Marevsky.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution 2021-080. This resolution authorizes the hiring of a part-time seasonal recreation operations intern. That's a pretty fancy name there, Robin Ray.
Yes, it is.
It is Bedminster. I would not expect anything less. Any questions or comments regarding this resolution? If not, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-080.
So moved.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Marevsky.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. And finally, resolution 2021-081. This resolution authorizes refund of property taxes for 2 different properties in Bedminster. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, may we have a motion to approve resolution 2021-081.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, last roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Marevsky.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. May we have a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Marevsky.
Aye.
Ms. Fernandez.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything to put on for new business? Seeing none, old business, we've already covered the COVID-19 situation. Pluckman Park for the senior housing. Doug and I have discussed some developments, but those are not ready for public consumption. Utilities,
Mayor, no update tonight.
okay. DOT improvements, I do want to quickly talk about the status of the DOT improvements that we've discussed for the River Road jug handle, and also sending those down to Phil's Drive, and I think my laptop may have just run out of battery. I've been following up with the DOT reps on that, and so I can't read verbatim from the email, but the Syed and Meredith report that the final plans are being developed and finalized, and probably within a week or two will be sent down to the operations center or operations support at DOT, who will then implement those improvements that we discussed. Doug, that's down in Trenton. So when it goes from Syed's group to operations, we don't know. But I will be in touch with both Meredith and Syed this week because I think it was on Friday, I was coming up 206, saw someone at the River Road on 206, not on the jug handle, just making a U-turn.
Into the Kings area there.
No, at River, on River
Oh, I'm sorry,
Road. So
River Road,
they were
sorry.
traveling
Oh,
north
my goodness.
and just little quick
U-turn.
little U-turn and got it in right in time, right before the southbound traffic started coming down.
Jug handle option.
So,
It is truly amazing.
And
that we
during-
haven't had more.
and during the farmer's market, Colin and I observed an irate driver who said that the car in front of him seemed completely surprised as how to turn onto River Road.
Yep.
On one side of the road, then another side, and it may be once again, it could be GPS still giving conflicting direction to make a left instead of a jug handle. So whatever we can do to expedite getting those improvements through, I'll continue to push with DOT. That's it for old business. Ms. Ray has to be up at the crack of dawn for the primary tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta be here by 5.
Bring the donuts
Oh, today.
and the coffee.
So let's go through township committee comments. We do have a very brief executive session after township committee comments, and then we will adjourn. We will not be taking any formal action after the executive session. So with that, let's go to township committee comments. Committeeman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say in advance of tomorrow, everybody get out and vote if you're eligible to vote. It's a constitutional privilege and right, and exercise it. It's important. And just wanted to also say that over the weekend, Susie and I had a chance to dine outside locally, and it was popping. I mean, popping at the seams, and it was great to see. It's starting to come back. It's starting to feel like normal again. And I just encourage us to let's take a look at our special use permits for outdoor dining. And let's get aggressive about that. And let's see what we can do to help our businesses continue to flourish now. And, the time, they sucked it up now. Let's let them reap the benefits of that. And I just couldn't have been happier to be outside and seeing all these establishments up and down Main Street. Although it was Peepack Glass now. They were doing well. And, but we should follow it in short order and, make sure that we've got, the place for folks to set up and run their businesses outside, because it was great to see.
Yeah, it's great to see. And once again, I'm not really sure what the history of why there was this perception that Bedminster did not like outdoor dining, but whatever that perception is, that's ancient history. This township committee supports it.
No doubt about it.
All right, thank you for those comments. Committeeman Hickey. I almost went to Stevenson.
You did, like I said, so no choice. To respect Ms. Ray's bedtime, I have no comments.
Committeewoman.
A quick welcome to Deb Taglieri, who the mayor just appointed to EC. We're happy to have her. And vote tomorrow, everybody.
That's right.
All right, Committeewoman Fernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank you, Renee, for all your service all these years to Bedminster. And I want to thank Robin and the Bedminster Rec for updating the polling locations and putting that nice flyer together, and just encourage everyone to get out and vote tomorrow. That's all.
Great, thank you. And I have no further comments. May we have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Al Fisher, for
Thank you.
coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Al.
Bye, Al. Bye, John.
We'll see you Saturday.
There. Good.
Give me 1 second. Bringing you over, Gina. Give me a second.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got to kill the recording too.
We are still recording. Although it's
Now
not.
she announces it when you kill it.
Recording.
Okay, it is 8:55 and we are back from executive session. We are not taking any formal action following the executive session. So we have nothing else to do other than adjourn. May we have motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Whoa,
Jesus.
that was loud, Mayor.